Okay, that's great. So thank you everybody for joining. Really appreciate the time you've taken out of your day to join us here this evening. Um, we will do, a few things during this webinar. Here's the agenda. We'll briefly go through the introductions of both the company and both Ashwin and myself. We look at the capabilities of next-gen agri-chatbots. The idea is that we want to show you the journey of where chatbots have started, where they are going, and that'll set the context for the solutions that we are working on. We'll get into how farmer-friendly chatbots are designed. We'll walk through a couple of use cases and examples, and also look at some very exciting opportunities where we're able to work within a community and building an ecosystem as a whole. And finally, we'll get into a little bit about the architecture and the features of the platforms that are required to build these very exciting chatbots. We'll go through a quick demo of some of the projects that we have live currently, and then open the floor for Q&A. So with that, Nikita, just some housekeeping. The session is being recorded. It will be posted on our LinkedIn and YouTube channels. And if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to put it in the Q&A box, and we will address those questions at the end of the webinar.
Sounds good. I think a bit of introduction. Varun and I are friends of work as well, and we also happen to be colleagues. Varun leads the AgTech division within NimbleWork, and we worked for more than 6 years, and he's put in a lot of work, specifically in terms of actual on-field experimentation in how to grow crops. And he also happens to be working on digitizing a lot of agriculture-related use cases within India and abroad. And I think they've been successful at doing so. My name is Ashwin. I lead the data science team at NimbleWork, and I happen to lead the Chiron product, where we essentially dealing with digital transformation in very large enterprises. And fortunately, we have had Varun work with Varun to essentially deploy Chiron as a part of agricultural use cases, where they bring in deep domain knowledge and we bring in the technology, and together we are here to revolutionize agriculture.
Yeah, thanks for that nice introduction, Ashwin. So basically, I mean, you've heard the names NimbleWork, Chiron, and Agwise. I just wanted to clarify how those are all related to each other. So NimbleWork is our parent company. Both Agwise and Chiron are divisions within the company. In Agwise, we focus on two digital agriculture solutions. The first one being smart farming and precision farming. So we have our own IoT-enabled automated irrigation and fertigation systems. And our other line of products, which we're here to talk about today, is basically agriculture chatbots. And Chiron is the AI division of NimbleWork, where their main product is basically a chatbot building platform, which we use, but they also work across not only the agriculture sector, but everything from hospitality to healthcare to food and beverage. And as a company as a whole, we've been in the business for about 23 years. A lot of global marquee clients where basically we look at digital transformation in many different areas. Within the agriculture domain, two of the demos that we're going to show you today are the one is our live project with the East-West Seed and with an NGO called Pradhan here in India. So we'll show you what that looks like towards the end of the webinar. So before we start, just a quick audience poll. you should be able to see it pop up, yeah, on your Zoom. So this is to just help us gauge what level of exposure our audience has, so that we can, tailor the conversation between Ashwin and I to be more focused towards the level of exposure of our audience. So
Yeah.
please do respond to the webinar. All right, Likita, have we gotten all the responses? Perfect. Okay, so basically you guys are just exploring the chatbots. That's nice to hear. There's definitely a lot of exciting things that are happening. The use cases, especially within the agriculture space, are incredibly strong. And yeah, we hope that you learn something about how you could potentially use chatbots within the work that you're doing. Likita, I think we have another poll. We have two polls, right, to start?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. So our second poll is related to your exposure to not just specifically chatbots, but using generative AI. And generative AI are things like your ChatGPTs, Claude, basically your large language models that allow you to converse very human-like with
And
AI
this is
systems.
where we just wanted to step in the sense that chatbots are a very common way of describing different ways in which users can interact with that small box that we see. But there's a large variety of use cases that then can be achieved with it. And now most of these bots are converting into large language models, and they're becoming Gen AI bots essentially. So they're no longer rule-based, but now they become large language model-based. So that's the main thing there.
Absolutely. Okay, it's great to see that some of you are in the process of implementing Gen AI within your work. It's definitely something that, I mean, we all use at a personal level to help us, do things like write emails, and potentially a lot of marketing content is generated by Gen AI these days. Yeah, but it's good to see that it is being implemented. We'd like to obviously talk about how this is working within the agriculture space. Likita, we can go to the next slide. All right, so let's begin. I'll hand it over to Ashwin now to give you a quick summary of where chatbots started and where they're going.
Yeah. All right. Nikita, you would want to. Excellent. So I think we will start with a brief recap of how uh, chatbots are evolving, specifically in the agriculture sector with some use cases. But it generally the nature of chatbots on the whole, the technology itself is evolving, and we want to see how it gets implemented within this context of agriculture. The lowest on the rung, but the most important and most often used, are what are called information retrieval use cases. In essence, what you're talking about is workflows where users ask questions and you have this information stored somewhere in your database, or you've stored it in somewhere on your website. And this data needs to be retrieved by the bot in the context of the question that the user is asking, and then answer that. So those are called information retrieval bots. Uh, they have been used quite often, but now what's happening is with the advent of Gen AI, you're able to get better answers using variations of bots, technology called RAG, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, well, within the agriculture context, I mean, what this means is that it's really easy access to a curated set of information. So, for example, something like a package of practice to grow a crop, right? There are so many that exist and from so many different sources, whether it be your government agriculture extension organizations, or your NGOs, or your research universities. There's a lot of information out there. But if you're working within the agriculture space, you need to be able to control what information your farmers have access to. So information retrieval through large language models is actually a pretty good use case within the agriculture space, so that farmers can get access to a very defined set of information.
Mhm. And things are progressing very rapidly in the sense that now we are moving the next level after that is to make sure that you're able to take action using large language models and generative AI. So the chatbots that are able to not only answer users' questions, but now are able to integrate with a workflow, right? A good example would be if a user is asking questions and needs an SME to answer that question, then you would want the bot to essentially log a ticket and ensure that an SME sees it and gets that question answered. So that is just one example. You could integrate multiple things. You could have payment gateways. So suppose you want to commercialize your bot, you want the I mean, it could be crops, it could be fertilizers, it could be insect or any other product. If these need to get sold, you could have bots that can essentially take payments as well, right? So this is the next stage in
Yeah,
the
and
development.
and what we've seen in the projects that we work on is that information retrieval as a use case is exciting for a short period of time.
Yes.
Farmers will come, uh, they will come to the bot for the first time. They'll be excited about the way they can easily communicate in natural language with the bot, ask a few questions, and then probably never use it again, right?
Yeah.
So what we have seen is that when you allow them to actually do things that help them, right? Whether it's purchasing inputs, whether it's selling their produce from the farm, whether it's connecting with subject matter experts, getting help with government schemes, those are all very important to their actual operations.
Mm.
And operations activities are oftentimes transactional. It's not just retrieving information, it is a transactional thing. So building in action flows into agriculture chatbots is a way that we've seen increases the
Value.
the value and keeps farmers coming back.
Correct. And that segues into the third stage of evolution in terms of chatbots, and that is about proactiveness, right? So in level one, information retrieval or action flows, we are essentially waiting for the user to initiate some kind of question or request, and then the bot is able to take action. But there are a lot of use cases where you would want bots, especially those deployed on various channels, to take actions proactively. That means to take the initiative. So if I know that there is a specific event that is going to get triggered and I need to warn my user, it makes sense for me to send in a notification and say, hey, if you're dealing with IoT, you're saying that the fields are going dry, you want the bot to send out a notification to the farmer saying, hey, the moisture in the field is going low. That is just one of the use cases, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it. But in the context of technology, the idea is, and this is very specific to proactive chatbots. The idea is that the time for apps is changing, right? That means you would rather go to where the users already exist. That means on different social media channels. That would be WhatsApp, Telegram, Viber, so on and so forth, based on which geography you live in. And most users especially spend a lot of time on social media channels and on WhatsApp, these communication channels. So having agents which are able to alert users in these channels while they are busy with something else is a very powerful use case, right? And in the context of agriculture, I'm sure Varun, you can talk a bit about it,
Yeah.
how you guys are
So
using it. Yeah.
in our experience, when we first started out 6 years ago, we were running agriculture experiments on precision farming using our IoT automated irrigation and fertigation systems. And we had a mobile app that complemented the Alikita, our presentation stopped being shared. As I'm talking, you can bring it back up. But basically what happened was we had a mobile app which had all of the instructions on what needed to be done on a weekly basis, what data needed to be collected. And it was all there within our app. What ended up happening was our agronomists created these WhatsApp groups with the farmers that we ran the experiments with, our field teams, and started to give instructions over WhatsApp. It was definitely a more manual process, but it was something that we found that the people in the field were more open to engaging with us through WhatsApp than our own mobile app. So, and when you look at scaling that up, right, one of the biggest challenges for digital adoption in the agriculture space, especially when you're going direct to farmers or people in the field, is installing that app, right? You need to first promote the app on one platform, then they need to install it and then start engaging with you, right?
Yeah.
Whereas when you're working with chatbots, you promote and offer services on the same platform, right? Whether it be your Instagram page, your Facebook page, WhatsApp. These are platforms that especially farmers are there. So it's definitely a lot smoother and reduces the biggest barrier to adoption, which is getting that install to happen.
Yeah, that's true. And just to add to that, as you were saying, right? The three important things. One, you're reducing friction because you don't have to install apps. Two, you're saving your dollars, you're saving your money because now you don't have to spend marketing money for them to install the app. So the marketing spend is more effective. And three, you're using the UI that they're most comfortable with. You don't have to specifically design UI. It's already there on the social channel. You are essentially leveraging that. And finally, it's very easy to manage it as well because these flows are external to the channel itself. So you can maintain it very easily. So next level after this, and that is the objective of most social media channels. It is the objective of when we're trying to essentially manage groups better. This is the final objective. That is, you want to build a community around the use case, right? Whether it's the farmers community, it could be the dealer network. Um, and so we want to make sure that people are growing around the use cases, getting educated, and understanding how specific things are used. So that is where we are talking about bots that talk to each other and they help communities transmit information from a group to another group, right?
Yeah.
And we're seeing the final drive is towards this fourth level, and we're seeing a good application for this in agriculture. And Varun probably want to talk about that as well.
Yeah, because basically the agriculture supply chain in general, right? Whether it be inputs to farmers or whether it be output from the farms to the end consumer, it's filled with so many different people, right? You have um, uh, your retailers, you have your dealers, you have your field teams, you have your agronomists, you have your farmers, obviously, and then on the buy side you have your traders, and you have, let's say, if you're working direct farm to table, then you have uh, your end consumers. There's so many different actors that are within this whole process. Each actor has a different use case, right? Each actor's job is different within that whole value chain. So so what essentially happens is there will be different chatbots for these different actors within the value chain, but we need to connect them all, right? And that's where the community building part comes into play, where the future of chatbots is really having chatbots talk to each other, where you have users from one community talking to another community.
Mhm.
And as I mentioned, within the agriculture space, it's incredibly needed.
So Varun, the use case that we would essentially going to implement about warning farmers about infestations in neighboring fields. Which group would that be fall under, three, or would that fall under four?
Well, it's definitely three, in the sense that the bot is learning from user behavior and taking the action to inform other users within the community about what is happening.
You may want to
Um,
explain the use case as well. I just
yeah.
going together.
Yeah. So one of the things that we do, right, is based on interactions with our chatbot from different farmers, we're able to aggregate that and based on the geography, alert nearby farmers to what's happening. Let's say we see a trend of farmers within a certain pin code looking for advice on how to treat powdery mildew in their tomatoes. any other tomato farmers that we know within the pin code, we can proactively reach out to them, say that, hey, other farmers are reporting powdery mildew. Here's some action you can take if you're seeing it, right? So it becomes definitely a proactive agent use case, but it does fall into the community building aspect, because even within a community, you're taking information that is aggregated and making it available to other people
Yeah,
within.
I mean, the way you would want to say extend that is the moment you know that certain locations or farms are suffering from, say, powdery mildew, you would want the dealer network to stock up on that specific insecticide. As an example.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Correct.
So then you bring two communities together. All right.
Absolutely.
I think we can go to the next slide. Yeah. Designing.
Yes, so I'll take this actually.
Yeah.
So basically what we do at AgWise for organizations is that we bring the organizations, farmers, field teams, and their distribution network onto one platform. As we said, I mean, it is a very frictionless rollout, because you don't have to get people to install an app. Data collection and surveying again becomes very easy, because they are on WhatsApp. They get these surveys on their favorite chat channels, and they'll very easily be able to respond. And you can reach out to people that, let's say, traditionally would not have installed your app, right? So your target for data collection, or your target audience for data collection, is a lot larger, because you're not limited to people that have just installed your app. And what we focus on here at AgWise is very specifically the agriculture domain. So because we come from a background of precision farming, we have all of the data models required for your farm, fields, crop seasons, pests and diseases, nutrient management. So the real focus here is that we're able to deliver very rich agronomy-driven services over chat. And lastly, one of the more exciting things that we're working on right now is that within these very complex supply chains, chatbots can be used to bring visibility into what's happening at the last mile. So oftentimes, if you're in the agri-input space, you work through distributors, dealers, sub-dealers, retailers. There's many different people between you and the end customer, which is a farmer. So through our chatbots being used by people across the supply chain, we are able to bring visibility into what's happening at that last mile, basically between the farmer and the end retailer.
Yeah, I mean, it may make sence for him to talk in with an example, a simple example of how this would work.
Yeah, specifically on the visibility into the supply chain side, basically we connect farmers to the nearest retailers. So in case, let's say, a farmer clicks a Facebook ad, they are directed to our chatbot. Chatbot asks very simple qualifying questions to get a better idea of what the needs of the farmer are, and then recommends certain products which will meet those needs, whether it be seeds or agrochem or fertilizers, and then directs them to the nearest retailer, at which point we're able to also involve the local sales teams to confirm that the farmer has actually made the purchase. So that really brings visibility into what's happening at the last mile, because oftentimes there's a lot of spend that happens in marketing, and there isn't a lot of clarity into exactly how effective that spend is because the increase in sales happens at the distributor level, and your marketing is happening at the end farmer level. So having that opaqueness is kind of tough. So with the solution that we work with, connecting the farmers to the retailers and local sales teams or agronomists, we're able to close that loop.
So in short, to summarize, farmers are learning, they're first getting the product. They're able to buy the product directly from the system. They also get information on how to use that specific product. and they're able to ask questions and get themselves educated on how effective that particular product is. C, organizations, on the other hand, are able to make marketing more effective because they're able to directly reach their end customer. And of course, they're also are able to effectively manage their field teams as well, because a strong customer connect is the basis for commercial success for a lot of these organizations. So yeah, that's a bit of a summary of what
Yeah.
the use cases.
Yeah, thanks for that. Likita, can you go to the next slide? So what we offer within our AgWise and Chiron focused agriculture chatbots is that, as we mentioned, since we are driven within the agronomy space, we have our digital package of practices. So it's the calendar-based reminders of what needs to be done on a certain week, automated nutrient management. So based on the input of the farmer and what their NPK is in their farm, we have our nutrient calculator, which gives them exactly how much NPK needs to be put based on the size of the farm and crop that they're growing, obviously. We do provide support on pest and disease advisories, where we're able to show symptoms of what the pests and diseases are, and then provide the treatment for those pests and diseases. And we're able to do pin code based current weather and the next 7 days weather forecasts. Likita, next. So with regard to really engaging the community aspect of this, this is connecting farmers to extension initiatives, whether it be sales support, whether it be agronomy support. You can run surveys with farmers. We also have a prepackaged solution for training programs where farmer participation can be tracked. Follow-up content from those training programs can be made available to the farmers. Likita, next. I'm just going to run through these a little bit briefly since we have a few slides and we want to show you the actual chatbots in action.
I want to get to the movie.
From a sales and marketing standpoint, agri-organizations definitely want to sell to farmers or farmers want to sell to traders. So these chat platforms allow us to have a product catalog. You're able to, based on the information that you collect from the farmers, hyper target marketing content for your products directly to them. We're able to segment by crop, geography, land size, and when leads are generated, as we discussed earlier, we're able to connect them to local salespeople, to the local retailers. And one of the more exciting things that we're doing, and here's where we use large language models in certain cases, is that instead of just giving advisory content, you link that advisory content with certain products that you want to promote. So let's say that you are a seed company. Farmers want to know what is the best paddy seed for their field. And by asking them a few questions through large language models, you will be able to gauge whether they want short duration or a long grain rice. And then based on what the need is, we're able to recommend products.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is hyper-personalized and hyper-localized advice. That's the bottom line, and that's the golden goal that we have. And you give that in their local language, and that's very, very powerful.
Yeah. And as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of activities that need to be carried out by people on the field. So whether it is connecting farmers directly with subject matter experts, tracking activity compliance for your field teams and for the farmers, any issues that need to be reported can be reported directly from the farmers to our chatbot. A ticket is created, or we can hand it off to a live person to be able to respond. And farmers can reach out to ask for help, where somebody can come to their field, support them with whatever they need, and collect information as well. Likita, next. Now, one of the key advantages of using chatbots instead of, which is what most likely happens, right? And within all the organizations that we work with, what existed before was WhatsApp groups, right? So people within your organization will create WhatsApp groups, maybe, 30, 50, 100 people WhatsApp groups where information is shared. There are two drawbacks to this. One is that the organization does not have any visibility into what's happening inside these WhatsApp groups, what information is being shared, collected, what events are being scheduled. There's no visibility into these private WhatsApp groups. And secondly, when you have large WhatsApp groups, there's a lot of let's say non-relevant content being shared. We've seen farmers sharing forwards and memes and good morning messages. So it's a lot of irrelevant content. And when there's so many people within a group, it's very hard to follow the conversation. So with a chatbot, one is that it's always a one-on-one conversation. So a user has access to the chatbot and it's one-on-one. So there is no issue with trying to find out what has been said before, right? Because you only have a one-on-one conversation. Secondly, is with the chatbot, every interaction with the chatbot can be tracked and aggregated. So as an organization, you're able to get visibility into the communications that are happening between your field teams and farmers. Get the next. Perfect. Yeah, so I'll hand this over to Ashwin. This is also going into the community building aspect, where really we're starting to work with organizations so that we can bring them together to offer many more services to users.
So the main thing that we quickly realize, and that's not just true of agriculture, but all other e-commerce and F&B and all these verticals, is that there are a large number of players other than just the market makers, and all of them have to be involved in the process in order for a successful transaction to occur, right? So within the agri context, it will be financial institutions who can give loans, short-term loans for farmers. It could be marketplaces, both inputs, so that they can get fertilizers, seeds, etc. into the farm. It could be agri-organizations who are helping farmers get the clout, the community support, and basically a lot of cross-pollination of best practices. You have logistics so that the produce can be sent back to the marketplace and vice versa. And of course, you've got fintech platforms which make things very easy in terms of short-term loans or insurance, etc., etc. So all these different market players need to be working in tandem in order for the community to grow. And that is the very broad objective of what Agwise and Chiron are trying to do. We are tying up with ONDC because ONDC is a very large network. They're successfully working in India today and growing by leaps and bounds. The idea is that they have various layers. You have the logistics layers, you have the product discovery layer, which is called your seller apps and buyer apps. So essentially what we are doing is we're using conversational AI and chatbots deployed on different social media platforms to enable farmers and these institutions to both sell, buy products, and then ship them from one place to another using ONDC logistics. So that is the broad idea of how Chiron as the technical backend, Agwise bringing in the domain, and working with ONDC, which is covering it up in terms of the logistics and, of course, the participation of these fintech players. So I'll go into one step deeper in terms of what technology is essentially enabling that in terms of what are the features. Likita, if you could be kind and move to the next slide. Excellent. So how does this all work, right? What is driving, what's under the hood? Agwise, as Varun was speaking earlier, comes with a lot of domain knowledge. That means, what are these crops? How do you grow them? What are the best practices? And of course, a nifty advice as well in terms of how to increase yield, etc. Now, all this data is stored in their data model, and we are able to access that through APIs. Now, this data is then given to farmers on social media channels. via the AI platform that is Chiron. It is digesting all this information. It is able to access these APIs and is able to deliver this information and services to end users on these social media channels. And I'm using the collective word social media channels because in India it's WhatsApp, but it changes based on which geography you're in, right? And it could be Facebook or Instagram Reels for all you know. That because you're able to reach to where these users are, that drives engagement because they're able to now engage with these platforms. They're able to understand and seek new information. All these will lead to questions. And that is the basis of all this. That is, you want users to ask you questions on how to use the platform, where they can get it, what is the price, how do you use it, and when do you use it. So all these questions are aggregated together. These interactions are understood. That's where the analysis and reporting comes in. And we take it back into the loop and we give it back to the advice database where it understands the quality of questions that are being asked by the end user so that the next time it engages with any new user, we already know what are the questions that could potentially come our way, right? So that's a bit about the technology under the hood. Could you go to the next slide, please? Right. So then what are the features that are driving this entire workflow? I'm just plugging in Chiron a bit. This may not be relevant to everyone, but if you are, please feel free to reach out to us. We have something called operational features that enable this bot to be deployed on various platforms. You have a flow code builder, which enables you to build the basic flows. You have live agents so that you can seek answers and then do a ticketing behind, and you can essentially get humans to pitch in where needed. Omni-channel integration is essentially saying, hey, I can connect a social media channel like, say, WhatsApp to a ticketing system like, say, Freshdesk or Zoho Desk or Agwise, the ticketing system within Agwise. So these are omni-channel integrations. You have marketing broadcasts where you can push notifications and all the other stuff that these are called operational features. Advanced feature is where we shine. We are looking at integrating multiple large language models. So you use the most effective models for the most effective use case. So that is a bit about what we are doing in LLM managers. I'll keep it short because we have a long way to go. And then, of course, you have enterprise features. So because when we are dealing with very large enterprises, we have the very required enterprise security, SOC 2 compliance, ISO 27001, and so on and so forth. So that's a bit about the features that are driving the entire operational workflow.
While that's happening, I would just like to thank our awesome audience for being here with us this evening. It was really our pleasure to be able to share the exciting things that we've been working on. Yeah, please do post any questions you have in the Q&A or directly into the chat.
I think one of the questions that are often asked, especially when it comes to what we are doing with Pradhan, etc., is that we talked a bit about that farmers can essentially predict or tell or essentially feed into the bot what specific crop they're growing and what is the quantity. And so once that is done, could you explain that process a bit further? As in, how does the organization then facilitate the sale or the movement of the produce?
Yeah, absolutely. But before I get to your question, you mind if I answer one from the audience?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So we have a question on what is our business model. So our business model is that we work with agriculture organizations. We don't have any chatbots that we offer directly to farmers. These are chatbots that we build with organizations that work with farmers, whether it be inputs, developmental agencies, or contract farming. Anybody that's really doing any work with farmers at scale are who use our platform. Our pricing model is one where we have a one-time customization cost. Now, depending on what services you want to offer to the farmers, and what we've seen is that every organization has different priorities. So depending on what the services are, we customize those in the organization's name to make it very specific to their use cases and their brand. And then there is a subscription fee based on the services and the number of users that are using the platform. So whether it be farmers, whether it be field teams, or your retail network, there's a SaaS subscription for that. And then finally, there's the social media channels costs. So not all social media channels charge, but for example, WhatsApp has a model where they charge for 24-hour conversation windows. Now they have different prices for different types of conversation windows, but overall, these are the three cost components. And as I mentioned, yes, we do work with agri-organizations and not directly to farmers. So yes, thanks, Rob, for that question. And Ashwin, to go back to your question specifically on how the output aggregation is working within our Pradhan project, is that we've been through one season so far where at the end of the season, the FPOs generally know what crops are being grown, not specifically at a farmer level, but generally know that, okay, most of my farmers are growing, let's say, rice this season. So what happened at the end of the previous season was that one of the FPOs that we work with had gotten a large order from an institutional buyer for rice. Now, they didn't know when the rice was going to be available and how much quantity was going to be there as well. And when it comes to the supply chain, getting as accurate as possible helps, right? Because for example, you have to plan when the transport is needed, how many trucks are needed, how big each truck has to be. So the FPO broadcasts to all of the farmers saying that we have a requirement of 50 tons of rice. Each farmer was able to respond saying they have X amount available within a certain date range. And even though they didn't get all 50 tons from their farmer base, they knew that beforehand, in the sense that they knew that within the time frame that the rice was required, they knew that from their farmer base, they were not able to aggregate 50 tons. They were actually able to aggregate only about 37 tons. So they were able to plan where to source the additional 13 tons from. And that advanced insight allowed them to meet the requirement and not leave the buyer in the lurch, right? Because when the buyer wants 50 tons, the FPO is committed to providing 50 tons. And then finally, on the day that it needs to be supplied, only 37 tons are available, right? So this is one of the very strong use cases that we saw last season.
Yep, the ability to essentially plan and have some foresight and some look on what's going to happen is a very, very powerful thing for planners, especially when you're looking to aggregate supply from smaller producers into something which is a very large demand base. It's a very powerful use case.
Yep. Okay, I don't think we have any more questions. So I think we can wrap this up. Yep. We will end with another quick poll. So if you liked anything that you heard today and want to reach out to us to learn more, or if you're just not seeing a fit as well, we would love to know. So please do respond to the poll, and then based on your response, we will reach out to you or not.
Yeah. Also, this webinar will be sent out to those who have not attended and also will be posted on YouTube. So you can always refer this to other users.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for your time today. And if you had mentioned that you were interested in connecting with us, we will be reaching out to you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Bye.
Bye.